Greetings and peace to all the viewers and listeners out there. My name is Krill of Out the Box Talks. I am excited for another episode of Out the Box Talks. I want to thank all of y'all for tuning in. So if you are a regular viewer on our YouTube channel, much love and respect to you. And if you just tune in via the audio podcast, much love and respect as well. As always, I try to bring you an artist or an interview that, represents quality, represents creativity, or a level of consciousness that Out the Box stands for. And the guests that I have today definitely fit that standard of creativity and quality. So I'm just so excited to bring them before you on the platform today. But before I do that, I just want to shout out some of the things happening with Out the Box. So you can always visit our website, which is outtheboxmedia.com. You can become a free subscriber there. We also have a Patreon page where you can get exclusive interview clips from artists that, interviews that you've never heard before. It's only available to the Patreon subscribers. So all of that is actually on our website, and I'm gonna put the banner up real quick. It's outtheboxmedia.com, so you can go check that out. Also I'll put up the banner. We got a merch store now too, where you can find the snapback that I got on, the Out the Box TV snap. And as you can see on the screen, it's outtheboxmedia.bigcartel.com. All right. So remember, you can catch the shows on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts. That's where you can catch the audio interviews of Out the Box Talks. All right. So just keep it locked on the platform. We got a lot happen. Remember, every Friday we do a new show. All right. So this show is one that I think a lot of our listeners are going to appreciate, especially those who are fans of the particular artist. So I actually have a duo today, right? And they have been making music and putting out projects since 2013. And I just want to shout out some of the projects they've put out. So they released a Half Measures mixtape in 2013. Then they went to the Race Music project. Then in 2014, they released a EP called Furtive Movements. 2017, we got that Rome album, which is where I actually first heard of them. And then we had the Paraffin album in 2018. And last year in 2020, the Shrines album. Yeah, last year in 2020, we got the Shrines album. And now in 2021, we have the Haram album, which has just been released. I want to say about a little over a week ago. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure, my absolute pleasure to introduce to you two brothers who represent a really dope duo in hip hop. The new project Haram is produced by producer extraordinaire, Grammy nominated producer, The Alchemist. And these brothers also hail from New York City, so the same town of Out the Box. So I want to ask y'all to give a warm welcome to brothers Billy Woods and Elucid, better known as Armand Hammer. Welcome to Out the Box Talk. What's good? What's good? How you doing?
That was the first. I never got the canned applause. I dug that.
That was a good intro though, man.
Yeah. That was tight.
Respect.
I'm gonna tell Queens Flip to watch out. You on his ass.
Listen, man, I'm very humbled to build with y'all for this interview, man. It's such a pleasure to sit with y'all, even though we're sitting remotely, right? Everybody's in their own space. I have so much to talk to y'all about, specifically in regards to this Haram album, which is produced by Alchemist. But before we do that, I do want to have you guys kind of give the viewers and the listeners there some insight on how you all started with pursuing music individually. So go ahead and share the chance.
I come from a family of musicians. And I think I picked it up and I started taking it seriously probably as like a teenager. And I mean, I've had hundreds of different jobs, all the while like pursuing like music and still like hanging out and going to shows and creating music and being in the studio and all these things. And yeah, all that got me here. I'm here, wherever that is. I'm here. And yeah, I'm not sure. It was always serious to me, you know, freestyling with friends to making records. I think once I got into the studio, probably around 16, 17 is when it was like a serious thing, like a laser focus, because I knew this is where I was supposed to be. This is what I wanted to do. And it came that like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So yeah, that's a teenager. Yeah.
Dope. Well said. Woods. So Woods, yeah. Go ahead, tell us about you.
For me, I guess that the answer would be it wasn't something that I really get. I was a big fan of hip hop music, but it wasn't something I ever thought about doing because I wasn't really in an environment where I ever knew anyone who rapped seriously or, you know, I just never even really considered that or whatever, but I was always creative. I was always a writer. And as soon as I started buying my own music, I was into hip hop and that was what I was into, you know, real heavy. And I think that for me, it was that when I was in college, not actually at school, but basically once I moved back to New York City, then my college years, I met rappers from here, like indie rappers and people who rap, who were doing crazy. You know, it was the first time I was around people who would just start spitting, and you're like, "Yo, what? It's crazy." The first person was probably like through this girl I met, Wind and Breeze, and first time I heard him spit, like just in this girl's kitchen, I was like, I didn't even know people could rap like that. You know, I just didn't. It sounds silly, but I just literally didn't know. And then after that, I met more people, and I became close friends with Vort Omega, who would later be part of Cannibal Ox. At the time, he was part of this a collective called Adam's Family, and he was a big influence and just always being encouraging and being like, go ahead and do your thing. And then I went back to DC for a year. I got kicked out of school. I went back to DC, and then I was just writing and doing my thing back at home and writing a lot. And it was kind of a secret. I wasn't really telling anybody there because it wasn't an environment with any rappers, but I had one other friend who would be writing and working on his shit too. And that's when, you know, I started thinking, oh, maybe I could do this. And then I really felt like it became serious once, I mean, I was pretty serious about it then. And then, yeah, once the Canox and all that stuff started to happen, I was like, wow, those are my homies, you know, because it's like, those are my homies, what? Yo. But yeah, I would say probably like that 1998 to that year that I was back in DC kind of by myself and started really writing rhymes and bouncing them off this one friend. And yeah, that would be it probably.
That's so dope that you say Cannibal Ox, you know, having that influence, because when I started,
specifically, I should say Vort Omega.
Vorto, okay.
Okay, yeah.
No doubt. When I started listening to y'all music, it reminded me of Cold Vein, like just the aesthetic, the sound, like I was getting that same kind of vibe, which, you know, so that's dope to see that that's that Vort Omega connection from Canox. So talk to me about how you all initially, you know, met each other and decided to collaborate as Armand Hammer?
We had a show. We had a show that I used to help do this this showcase, kind of like I don't know, maybe I'd just call it a showcase. It was kind of like a one-night festival, together with a couple other, with this cat NASA, who ran another indie label back in the day, and good dude. And he and I would do sort of curate this event every December. And one year we were doing it. It was called Yule Prague, and I was like, who's going to be the headliner? And he was the one who always he knew more of what was going on with different acts, and he was the one who would more often than not bring in somebody I hadn't heard of, or be like, yo, this person's gaining some steam, we should reach out to them or whatever. And so he was like, yo, this kid's really dope, blah, blah, blah. He's going to be the headliner. Actually, now that I think about it, I think it was when the event was 2 nights, and the first night was like a battle or something.
I feel like that's pretty accurate. Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember you were at the battle thing, and I was like, you didn't win. I remember it was like your style wasn't, you weren't even really trying to do that. And then the next night, whatever, the main thing I remember is he was the headliner of the show. I hadn't really heard his music. There was so much logistical stuff to do. I just trusted, NASA said he's good. All right, let's go. And afterwards, going through all these things, I remember watching his set. I think by then we knew that, when you're throwing a show, you're kind of tense about all the logistics and did we make our money? But he was the headliner. So by the time he went, I think I knew everything was squared away, and I just tried to enjoy the set. And I was like, wow, this guy is really wild with it. And it was a good show. And then I talked to him after the show and got his contact information. And then I went home and watched the video, tried to look up his music, and I found a video for this song, Automatic Writing. And I watched that. I got home after the show, like 2 a.m, watched the thing, was like, yo, this is dope. Got to do something with this guy. And so I reached out with like a track, and was like, oh, I have this track. And he recorded a couple guest spots for my record. And then I just was like, why don't we keep doing stuff?
Yep. In short.
Dope. So how did y'all even come up with the name Armand Hammer? Like, how did y'all decide that was going to be the name that the duo would be recognized by?
Well, that was my idea at the time. I just thought Armand Hammer, I like things with different levels and interpretations. And I was like, there's so many ways.
I was thinking straight. It was more straight. It wasn't the name. It was just Arm and Hammer.
But then I was like, yo, write it like this. And part of that was just, I thought it was a cool idea. I remember when I proposed it and I was like, I hope he doesn't not like this. Because the other thing was, by then I've been doing it long enough to know you don't want to have a name that you can't Google. It was a long time ago, but I was enough to be like, if our name is Armand Hammer, that's already, you're just setting yourself up with so many hurdles before you've even started. As well as I felt like it would be too much like, oh, then people would look at it as just being about like Coke or something.
Wait, I feel like I proposed the idea of making a name.
I got to tell you that is not the case, but you did agree. But I will say you did agree instantly, which I was like, I hope.
Yeah, it's a solid move. It needed to be a name. Yeah.
Because, early on you do things, especially for somebody like me who started doing this when the internet was not as big. And then you're like, man, I picked the worst name, whatever the case may be, you know what I mean? Like, so I gave it a little more thought than I gave my first rap name.
It's funny you say that because I remember like when I want to Google stuff, and this happens with other artists too, but in you guys' case, like, if I'm Googling Armand Hammer, I got to put like MC or rapper next to the name, or else other stuff is gonna come up, right?
See, at the time, I had, I had no idea. Obviously, this other individual, he was already acting, but he wasn't acting under that name and had barely done anything at that point in time. So when I looked it up, I saw, an old industrialist. I was like, that's fine if that's part of the, because I was also like Armand Hammer, like hammer and sickle. I also just thought about the simple mechanics of it. Two things that work together to do one thing. You know what I mean?
Got it. Now, what's pretty obvious in terms of your artist presentation for the both of you is the actual display of your names. Billy, your name is usually demonstrated in all lowercase letters, while Lucid, your name is demonstrated in all capitals. And I noticed that while Billy's energy is generally more of a laid back vibe vocally, your energy, Lucid, is generally very strong vocally, and it has a kind of like in your face presence, and it's a little bit faster as well. Yeah. Did the energy of your vocal presence have an impact in how you guys would choose to display the look of your names?
I'm not so sure. I thought it just looked cooler, like typed out that way. And then just thinking about how, like, yeah, I make music as Elucid, like it's a machine, like it's separate from self in a way. But I don't know. It's interesting that you said it about like voice and delivery, because that's not what the internet thinks.
Yeah, it's interesting. People, I think you could have easily reversed that description, and some people would have agreed with that. It really depends.
Yeah,
I also think it's interesting what you're talking about, because Elucid's name used to be, and it's funny because you can see the people who've been down with him for super long, because it's a space between each letter.
Each letter, yeah.
But then once I had to start writing the PR things, I was like, I'm not doing that. Come on. Brother. Also, it's funny because you were asking about my name, and when I was saying I was thinking of Armand Hammer's name, I put more thought into it. So I came into my own name in a funny way, but like nobody calls me Billy, so it's not like in a bad way or trying to be formal. Everyone calls me Woods. The Billy part was an appellation for a different life and other things I was doing at the time, where it seemed best to have two names for what I was doing, and then it just bled into the rap stuff. I was a kid, so you don't really think about it at the end. But everyone calls me Woods.
Dope. Yeah, it's just something that I noticed, and maybe I played a little bit too much into it, but I was just curious if it had anything to do with the display.
No, I thought it was, at the time, I just thought lowercase would be good. I think I probably also was like, not going to do the MF Doom thing. MF Doom was all caps. And I already thought that, even though for my own reasons I wasn't going to show my face, I didn't want to turn it into something that was too much like that. I don't know, man. Also, when I was so young, like I sometimes I wonder if I'm even remembering accurately my own rationalizations. The lowercase thing, I don't fully remember why. In the end, that was what I chose. But we had already both been making music for a while with our names written that way before we met. So it's just pure coincidence that he's all caps and I'm lowercase.
Yeah, it's also like people would always just spell it wrong, like Euclid, like the Greek geometric dude, right? Like, or like the Avenue in Brooklyn. And it was just like, all right, so like that's not my name, but so maybe if I just like make it bigger, like y'all would like understand it and see it and spell it correctly, say it correct, but it ain't work. It really didn't work.
Interesting. So this new project that y'all have out with Alchemist, as you said earlier, called Haram, and Alchemist is obviously providing the main producer contribution on that album. Tell me how the relationship with Alchemist came to be, where he would lend his production to this project.
He reached out to me. We first kind of had a connection through a third party who I turned out it turned out we knew somebody in common through a funny coincidence. But actually, even to find that out, he had already reached out to me through Earl's Sweatshirt, and once we started talking, we just kind of hit it off. And then after a little while, he was like, "We should do something," and so I was like, "If we're doing something, we should do something with Armand Hammer."
That's dope.
Which, it turned out that was even how he gotten into my music, was really through Armand Hammer to begin with. So he was like he jumped right on it, like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
That makes a whole lot of sense. Like it just, like when I found out that Alchemist was gonna be producing an Armand Hammer album, it just made a whole lot of sense. It's like on paper, you see certain things, you're like, okay, that works.
It do.
So,
it do.
And in listening to the project, even though it's been like we're coming up on a week since it's been out, it works. Like the music sounds really good. It's you guys still stay within what people know y'all for, but it just sounds like an extension of Armand Hammer.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I produce as well, and in the beginning of like making this record, I remember a conversation with Al, and he was like, "I love what y'all do." I think I wanted beats, like different kind of beats that he was giving us. I wanted like a different kind of a sound. He was like, no, I love what y'all do. I'm trying to come into y'all world. And let's just build something, that custom fitted to Armand Hammer. And it really worked out that way,
Indeed. So let's talk about the album title. What's the significance of the title to the message at large on the album?
Haram.
You want to go first?
Go ahead, man. Because yeah.
Okay. I guess to me, and the thing is, I feel like you create, and then sometimes you create with the idea, and new connections form as you're making something. Always everything that it relates isn't something that you figured out beforehand. So for me, it was, that the title was a good starting point. And then from there, all sorts of things happen consciously and unconsciously that find their way back to the title and back to your starting point. For me, I think it was a departure point about talking about spirituality, and talking about desire, and talking about things that are forbidden, and talking about religion in all its forms and facets. So yeah, I'd say, and also I think that it's interesting because Haram is also something that's like it's like sacred, like how like you can't go, not just anyone could like go into the Kaaba, for example, in Mecca. You can't just go in there. You have to be in a pure state to go experience it. So just kind of about how things that are forbidden are sometimes also things that are sacred, all the different things that you could explore within that.
Do you want to share your point of view too, Elucid?
I think I love how Woods explains that.
Dope.
And the title itself, like the many like chambers that he just mentioned, it just allows us to keep things open-ended, which I love about these Armand Hammer records, and allows like the listener to take what they will from it. There are images to grab onto that may speak to people in whatever way that it speaks to your personal like understanding and direction. And I love that. I don't want to have to explain like because this is my life. You know what I'm saying? Like this is my thought process. This is my expelling. So when a listener grabs on to like whatever, I think it's really ill that they're able to like take whatever it is that they take that applies to them personally. So we need that open-endedness, and also to like kind of like challenge ourselves to not box ourselves in and just allow things to develop naturally and mutate naturally and ferment naturally. And I love that.
I could dig it. I could dig it. So let's talk about some of the lyrics on the project. For this interview, I wish I had the time, but to cover the majority of your catalog is going to be hard. So I'm only going to focus on Haram as well as Shrines. But we're going to jump off with Haram first. So
did I send you the lyric booklet? I should have sent you the lyric book. Let me know if you need it.
I would love it in the future. Yeah, definitely. If you could send it to me, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I can send it to you right now if you want it.
It's cool. I have some of the lyrics written down from what I've gathered thanks to the resource of the internet. Okay, so on the first track, Sir Benny Miles, you have a line, Woods, where you say, "My favorite game is let's suppose. Let's suppose I asked the question just to see it in your face. I already know the answer never mattered." So it's just an excerpt, right? In that scenario, if I'm correct, it sounds like you're talking about the value in being able to read people's facial expressions beyond their words. Can you give the significance of the word suppose and elaborate on how it connects to the actual question that you ask in that line?
Well, first of all, I think if somebody knew me, then it's an extra laugh because I ask a lot of hypothetical questions and always have for my whole life. My parents used to be so annoyed, man. Number one hypothetical question asker. My mother, I asked my father one time in front of a whole bunch of people in the government. I was like, who would win if Mugabe, so Zimbabwe had a prime minister and a president. And this is right after independence, and a bunch of people in the room. And I was like, who would win if Mugabe and the president, whose name was Canaan Banana, who would win if they had a fight? It was an awkward question considering the room. Everybody thought, but I've always just been that sort of person. But then the other aspect, so that's just kind of an inside joke, but it's true. I ask a lot of hypothetical questions. And then there's, so that is my favorite game is let's suppose. And then the other part of it is sometimes you're asking somebody something, maybe I should say, sometimes I ask somebody something to see that, you might already know what, and you're like, I wonder how it doesn't matter what they say. You're waiting to see what type of how they react to this thing, how they try to, you already know what the actual reality of the situation is.
Indeed, indeed. Yeah, it was one of those lines that, and you have a number of lines like that. I'm just like, I gotta rewind it back because I feel like there's underlying things that you could decode from it, and that's what I love about y'all music. It's abstract enough that you can find new things when you go back and listen to it.
Tight.
Tell us about the second track, Roaches Don't Fly. I feel like that's like a short solo of yours, Elucid. How does that title relate to what you're actually talking about in the verse? I know like at the end of the verse, you say, I think, or in the song somewhere, you say, you don't have to be here if you don't wanna, and you just kind of like, talk to me about that song and like, I
don't think it connects at all. I don't think it connects at all. I'm styling. I'm really styling on that track, really. If there's a core theme, you could talk about like autonomy, talk about like bodily autonomy. But yeah, the title, sometimes titles really don't even matter to me.
Right.
I like that phrase, and applied it to that record. But yeah, for me, like I was just really styling on that Alchemist beat. It was just like, I don't know, I got that beat and it's just like I just really
and rocked with it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good point that you brought up because I noticed you guys have a lot of interesting titles, not just on this project, but on a number of your projects. How, like, what is there like a formula that y'all go to create the titles, or like how do you generally come up with the titles for y'all songs?
I think I think it all goes into like our process of like how we record and how we like make songs. But I think for me personally, I'm always jotting things down. I always have like a random idea. I'm always in the phone or like writing something down. Sometimes it ends in a rhyme. Sometimes it ends as a title. Sometimes it ends as nothing. But like, yeah, I think with Roaches Don't Fly Woods, if I'm not mistaken, I was just like something that I did on my own and kind of sent it to you. And,
yeah, you already had the title.
Yeah.
You already had the title. Because remember, that actually caused me to change the title of Giraffe Hunts before Giraffe Hunts existed in its final form or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's funny.
Got it. So one of my favorite tracks on the album is Black Sunlight. It's probably my favorite, just off rip, hearing it.
Yeah, that's an obvious choice for sure. I knew that as soon as I heard that beat, I was like, this is the one for me, you know?
It works.
Yeah, he picked that beat out immediately and had the whole plot, the concept of, you know, like smiling and all aspects of it. He pretty much had it figured out. So I just did my part.
Adding Kayana to the on the song, her vocals, she really blessed that for us. It just really set it off on another level. Yeah.
Really good concept too. That was. It's nice when somebody tells you the idea and you're like, bang, that's great. Let's go.
Indeed. So, Woods, you have a line on that song where you say, "Some nights the sun shines, just gotta catch it." And I think also on "Falling Out the Sky," you say you say that you say sunny days and sunny nights too. Can you expound on what you meant by that line? Some nights the sun shines.
Yes, although I'd say that it's funny because all you can see is my teeth here. But the line before is something teeth incisors, yellow teeth incisors flashing. Some nights the sun shines, just gotta catch it. So first of all, it's a joke about my teeth, yellowish teeth to begin with. So and then the incisors flashing. So like I'm kind of making a joke about, I mean, on the one hand, yeah, it's like saying some nights the sun shines, like you got things happen and you just got to have your eye open. And on the other hand, it's a thing about like me smiling, you know, especially since sometimes people think I'm very serious. I mean, not in real life, people don't think I'm very serious, but you know.
That makes a lot of sense. And it also goes with the title, right? Black Sunlight.
Yeah.
Yeah. It had a different title before, but
interesting. What was it?
Good.
I mean, it was a working title, man.
Okay.
It was just,
oh no, that was the title.
Bring the Stars. It was just a working title.
I mean, I wasn't trying to say it, but yeah.
Dope. So on the track, aubergine.
It's an eggplant.
Got
or
it.
The color. Really, I was thinking of the color.
Got it. Yes. All right. So on the track, aubergine, Woods, you have a line where you sort of reference the sometimes lethargic state of rap. You say rappers tired, inertia.
One of the best lines on the album.
Yes. Rappers tired, inertia is the only thing that keep them moving. Now, if y'all had to envision a world, like if I said right now, close your eyes and envision a world where whack rappers' lyrics just stood still, like what do you think it would do to push the culture of hip hop forward? Like if that were to happen, where the inertia really happened, where their lyrics just stopped, or
there might be so many whack rappers stacked up. Some niggas might get walled off. You know, there's so many of y'all out there, man.
Like if Thanos snapped it, you know what I'm saying? There was a Thanos snap of whack rappers.
It would be funny. It would be funny. I might prefer to get rid of the middling ones rather than the really bad ones, so that you have something to lie.
Are we saying names? I want to say, are we saying names?
No, I'm not trying to get
Y'all don't have to say names, man. You know, when I heard the line,
we watching y'all, man. All y'all.
When I heard the line, you know, especially the word inertia, you know, it really made me think about a world where that did happen. You know, I mean,
I was really thinking of the, you know, it starts with the Westworld niggas need reboot, recycling the same shooting.
Mm-hmm.
That was the one that had been floating around, and then I built from there, you know.
let's talk more about Alchemist. Like, how involved was he with the production? Did he like show up in person at any times? Or were there times where he would send you guys music and he would go back and rework the track based on y'all input? Like, how involved was he?
Nah, it was I mean, this was COVID era, so
Right.
I never actually sat with Al in the studio. We had plans to go to LA and do that, but COVID hit. Woods was out there for other reasons and hung out with Al, I think, a couple times, but it was mostly just like sending beats back and forth and like phone conversations, little FaceTime situations. And then, I mean, you got to understand also, like, we started this record in 2019. I've been holding this secret for a while, right? We started this record before Shrines, put it on pause, did Shrines, picked this back up, finished it, it's out. But I think like with Haram, like yeah, once we started getting into a groove with like vocals and things, yeah, he loved it, and he would just like kind of craft the beats around what we did. And then I was able to see like, yo, Al's songcraft is like top tier. Like this is what a producer does. This is what a producer really can do for like a song or a demo and make it into a song. You know, he took things sometimes in a direction I couldn't see. And then yeah, once we got vocals laid, then it was like the next phase of like, how does this all work together as an album, as a project, flowing from song to song. And Woods came through with like movie clips and things, and then I came through with movie clips and things, and we put the transitions together with Al. I feel like that's like one of the illest parts about the record, like the transitions and just like creating like this ambiance. That's an Armand Hammer thing, right? It's like this kind of unhinged, unsettled kind of vibe. But I didn't want to keep it the same way, like as it was on Paraffin or maybe Shrines. This felt a little more calmer. You know, it's more ambience that we were ambience and like drones that we were like working with on Haram here. And so yeah, like Al ran the ship, but he's definitely like, again, like, yeah, I want to come into y'all world. So what that means is like we got input. We, you know, this is how, you know, it's tight.
And there were a couple things that got reworked. So, I mean, I guess Giraffe Hunts didn't end up on this album, but that would be a big one where me and him kind of went, he sent me something and I was like, what if it was like this? And then we ended up on the final version of that track. Same thing with Aubergine. That was something where some of it was some of the first stuff we ever recorded. Yeah. And then other stuff was done way later and putting it together. And when Fielded came aboard, all of those things involved a lot of feedback and going back and forth. Probably the last thing to be done on that was Fielded recording her part. So there were a few things like that. I'm trying to think if there was anything else, but there were definitely some points of going back and forth, and definitely in between him, Elucid, and Willie Green, there was a lot of collaboration. Yeah, Willie Green engineered a lot of this project, mixed and mastered the whole thing. He was absolutely essential part of what my label does and what we've done as artists. And you know, Al, even just having the willingness to trust Green to mix his stuff, you know, Green, Elucid, and Al really put their heads together on the sonic, you know, the post-production and that sonic level. I came in with my transition ideas and the track order. You know, Al and I went back and forth about that, and but then I just stepped back because, you know, I'm not a producer, and and they all really nailed it in terms of post-production and how things were coming back. It was really great experience to sit back and watch that happen, you know.
Very, very well said. Now, Elucid, you said that you held this project, right, for for a long time. How were you able to keep something like this hidden? I mean, an Alchemist project, like
I'm not a talky ass nigga. So it's like I knew it was happening, but I was also busy with other things. You know what I mean? Like at the same time, when we really got into like the recording of Haram, like I was also working on this record called Small Bills. I don't really be on. I'm on socials. I'm on social media, but like I'm not like on there like that, like divulging crazy info. Also, I just wanted to be a surprise for people. I just wanted to just like fall out the sky like a refrigerator on somebody's head, and like you never imagined it. You know what I mean? People just they never would think like I would like fuck with Armand Hammer, but when it materialized, it makes a whole lot of sense. It makes a whole lot of sense. But like, yeah, I love that surprise element. I think we pulled that off magnificently. Shout out Woods. We did that thing, man.
Indeed.
Yeah, definitely did. One of the things I notice in terms of your music is the similarity of your voices at oftentimes. How has your chemistry together helped to benefit your individual lyrical strengths?
I don't think our voices sound similar. I don't understand that. I'm not even saying that as somebody who's in my feelings or something. I don't really get it. We both have pretty deep voices, but especially because the approach vocally is so different. I don't personally hear it. But it's interesting, man. You know, you have people out there who think that there's a rapper named Armand who's recording all the verses on to one guy. So, you know, it's a big world, man. I can only speak for myself that as far as that question goes, I don't think I can really help because I don't think that we sound alike.
Right.
Got it. I don't know. I'm really being honest with what I've heard, and this is just my perspective. So I get it. Like you guys have probably never heard that, but like
I hear it all the time, and I'm like, especially with this record, like you know, what I mean, this is crazy exposure with this record, so I'm just seeing it just on Twitter or whatever, and people saying it like, "Oh, Armand Hammer is one person," or when they find out it's two people, then it's just like, "Oh, y'all sound alike," and it's just like, Never thought so, but you know.
So I'm not alone. You're not
alone, bro.
And I'm like, I'm all not. But the reason why I asked the question was like, you know, both of y'all are dope in your own right? I say y'all sound similar, but of course y'all have your own styles. But I'm curious to know. Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. Sometimes there's people where I'm like, okay. Like, I remember when the clips first came out, and I was like, I couldn't really tell, especially early clips. It takes a while to see who's Mal and who's Pusha. I mean, obviously they're brothers. They're from the exact same place. It's not that one of them's older and clearly showed the other one how to rap, you know, so it's not shocking. And then there's like the Smith and Wesson thing where you could tell they were different people, but you weren't always sure who was Smith and who was Wesson. This situation is more confusing to me. You know, it's kind of like if somebody was like, I didn't know that I thought Smith and Wesson sounded alike. They didn't ever sound alike to me, but I would confuse to this date. I'd be a little bit scared if we were with the Cocoa Brothers and I was supposed to say
not the Cocoa Beans.
Like, I'm 90% sure that I know, but I would be like, I hope I'm right.
Like, I'm going to give you a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Stone Fruit.
Yeah.
I could have sworn it was you, Woods.
Crazy.
Like, I could have sworn it was you, Woods.
Hold on, I am on the song. Which part? You mean singing?
No, I'm talking about the singing. I'm talking about the first part of the song. Like, but... when I found out it was Elucid, I was like, all right, it makes sense, right? Now, I asked the question really not to talk about the similarities that I hear in the voice, but to really focus on how you each sharpen each other. The chemistry sharpens each other. So do you guys feel like when y'all get in the booth or when y'all record together, how do y'all benefit from, you know, what y'all each bring vocally as MCs?
I think it's just like out of like a shared like respect for each other's craft, man. Like Woods is one of the best out here. Like that's like undeniable. Like bar for bar, on paper, or just audibly, like he's one of the best out here. So it's just like I know I can't really be slacking. You know what I'm saying? And I gotta like something like Stone Fruit, right? Like Woods is nice. Woods is nice, but I don't know if Woods would have came up with that flow. I don't think he would have done that way that I did it. Like that's me. That's me, right? Like that's so I just gotta like continue to mine for stuff. I'm just in competition. I just want to play with the best, like for real. So that's what I feel like I'm doing, you know. So I think that's for me personally. That's how I'm keeping the sword sharp, you know.
That sounds.
I think it's two different. To my answer would be there's two different levels. On the long-term version of that is that if I looked at where I was in 2013 and when I started working with the Lucid, what made me be like, I need to work with this person is my mom, when I was a kid, would always be like, don't do stuff with people who are worse than you. You know, she was like, if you're gonna do something, like don't have friends who are like all stupider than you. You know what I mean? Don't like play games or you're better than everybody at doing something or when I was a kid, if you're good at something and sometimes they want to move you up to the more advanced group and you want to stay with the group you have because you're the best, and it's like, no, you gotta move up. So I felt like, man, we did 2 songs, and the first one I felt like I got thoroughly out-rapped on, and then the second one I felt like I kind of barely held it together. So I was like, I need to be rapping with this dude, and so I could say in the long term, on a lot of levels, just made me a much, much better artist. And in terms of how it works song to song and so forth, I think one of the interesting things is I feel like on the one hand, there's a lot of things to do with melody, a lot of ability to play with cadences and delivery that I definitely have just from being around somebody. You're like, oh, okay, look at what, you know, that I've taken away from working with him. It's definitely helped me in terms of making hooks and stuff like that from where I started out. And then on another level, I can see ways in which I think by virtue of working together, we have 2 different approaches of ways that our brains work and different ways we might approach a subject, which is great because it allows you to do so much and to challenge each other's narratives within a song or take something in a totally different direction. And that is balanced by the fact that the only person I've ever worked with, at least in terms of music, sometimes other people like artists or people who make videos or visual artists and things or a producer, but where I have total faith that whatever I think up or crazy idea I say, because sometimes you might be like, here's the idea, and then you go do it and it's like, yeah, that was too on the nose or not on the nose enough or way off or something when you go tell somebody what to do. Whereas this is a situation where I can have complete faith that, like, even if he's not doing what I thought was going to happen, it will in some way be interesting, challenging, move the song in a place, even if I didn't know could go there. So it means a lot to work with somebody where you can have complete faith, and then also where they can do something like send you something and you feel like, okay, I know exactly what that challenges you and also puts you in position to do your best work. And, you know, I think also for me, I think that's important in the groups of times. Yeah, you got get something and it's just like you're set up. Like Stone Fruit, I was set up. And then it's like the other person also has to deliver though. And it's like, you know, you don't want to throw alley-oops and dudes then turn it into a missed layup. Like you got to dunk that motherfucker.
Right.
So I think those would be all of the ways in which I think it's the interplay has happened and the ways that it has helped me become a better artist for sure.
Appreciate that, man. You said a whole lot there, man, and I appreciate that. So I want to go back to the song Black Sunlight, and particularly your verse, a line from you, Elucid. We really hear your energy at the end of the verse regarding your desire for a better world. Like I could really feel the passion in your lyrics when I hear your verse. And you have a line on there where you say, I ain't never hold myself to make the song sell for all the world. Can you expound on your mindset with that line and tell us like your true intention for doing music?
Well, I think it's like a testament to like, or just it just speaks to the road. Like I'm still on this road. I haven't arrived anywhere. Like sure, like this record here, like I knew doing this record, this would be the most visible that I've been as an artist. I'm working with the Alchemist. This dude's winning Grammys. You know what I mean? Like sure, but you know, being on this road and thinking about, I never had to change my style. I never changed my style. The world changed. You know what I mean? Like whatever that is, like it changed. People's perceptions change. Social climates change. People think differently, or maybe not. Time, I don't know. And being in this whole pandemic situation, people are processing things differently. People will permanently change or I don't know. But I didn't change what I did. And here we are. You know, all of a sudden people are paying attention because I'm close to Al. You know, I'm putting this record out on this particular platform. I think in that particular line, I thought you were going to mention another line, but with that particular line, like that's all I was coming from. Just like really speaking to like staying on your own path and like realizing, for me, realizing what I have, my gift to offer to the world. I never had to sell it out. I never had to cheapen myself. I never had to like front and play a role that wasn't me or be uncomfortable and had to get called out and nah. You know what I'm saying? Like here I am. Yeah,
the lyric is so powerful. Like I want to recite it, just to share the energy of it. Like you say, I don't want to riff blood. I don't want to explain self. I don't want to constrict love.
I want to grow cap.
I hold myself to make the song sell for all the world. Smile. Yeah. I mean, you said, but I'm just saying, like, when I heard it, like, I was like, man, this is that. I guess that's the reason why I really like that record, because it's a big record. Like,
there's so much joy in that record, man.
Yeah,
there's so much joy in that record. Like the production is there, you know. But I'm telling you, when we did a show, Woods Terror Management release party, and there was this brother Mike who performed, and I saw him on stage, and I was like, yo, Mike was up there smiling. He was just in his bag, and he's a star. He's a star. Like how he moves on stage, like his pocket, he's rhyming, he's smiling. His records are very like emotional, and he's showing like a crazy vulnerability about like how he came up or like his pains and trauma, and he's on stage smiling through all that. I was so inspired, man. Wow. I was so inspired, like watching him on stage, and like I feel like I got the beat like that morning, and then I saw him, and I was like, that's what we need to see out here. You know what I'm saying? We smiling through all the bullshit. You know what I mean? We smiling through it, you know, and working through it, but all in all, like keeping that smile, keeping that joy within us, which is so powerful, you know. And that's where that record came from. So I'm glad that like that joy, that feeling, like somebody said today, I heard, you know, talking about Kiana's vocals on there, and the knee, like kind of we were singing together, and just like the sense of like joy and glee.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt like actually recording it, you know? So I'm glad that that's imparted to the listener.
I like the line, digging out my pockets, blowing off the lint. How does that whole couplet go?
Shit, man. Don't go bring me back.
No, that's the line. What line were you gonna talk? Where it's like, I thought it was just a thing about finding joy in any way.
Going off the lint.
Like,
Yeah.
It's like blowing off the lint. Like that's my favorite line.
Like, yeah. We forget that. We forget the joy. You know what I'm saying? Like, shit is very real out here, and it's very easy to forget it. So, you know, it's there. You know what I mean? We gotta tap into it. We can tap into it, and it's important. It's necessary to tap into it. We're gonna be out here and run this race for real. You know? Yeah.
I dig it. And Woods, you shine as well on that track too. I can't remember the exact lyric, but it's something you say and the it just works so well with the beat. I can't remember the lyric off the bat, but I when I remember I'll mention it to you. But yeah, it's just a dope record, man. So
thank you.
On the refrain from the song Pepper Tree, Woods, I can hear a distinct Caribbean accent from you. What made you tap into that Caribbean patois on this particular track?
So when I got the beat, that is actually the song that I wrote here the fastest.
Interesting.
When I got the beat, it was in Alchemist had sent a group of beats, a pack of beats, and Lucid and I picked out a couple, and I remember I was like, what about this one? It was so weird.
Yeah.
And he texted me back, absolutely not. And so I was like, I don't know. While I was waiting for him to answer, because a lot of times he picks weirder things than me. So I was waiting for him to answer and feeling like the answer might be yes. I didn't know because it was so weird. But I was like, so I started listening to it and vibing to make sure that I wanted to do it, you know. And then by the time he texted me back, it didn't take long, but by the time he texted me back, absolutely not. I was like, nah, I have an idea. I was like, I like this. And I told Al, and he was like, oh, that joint's crazy. I didn't even know. I can't remember exactly what he said, but basically where he threw it in to see. You know, he didn't really know if it would be an interlude or if somebody was going to rap on it or what would happen. He just thought it was out there. And I liked it immediately. And something just, I guess a few different things just made me think about where my family is from in Jamaica, which is very, very rural place in like the mountains and whatnot. And that's really where I've spent a lot of time in Jamaica, but I still to this day, I've never been to Kingston, you know. My family is from deep, deep country. And so, and the last time, well, not the last time, but I certainly have been there for many funerals. And there's like a little church at the top, one part of the mountain, and then we carry the coffin down this ravine, and it's a different sort of thing. You know, I was saying to somebody once about like generations of my family are buried in the front yard of the house. You know what I mean? And when you walk around there, people's have the burial plots on their property of their family members, sometimes right by the gate or by the whatever, but people's, you know, you look out the window, you wake up, look out the window, it's 3-4 generations of your family out there. And it just has a different weight. But also, some of those things were taken from different, I feel like some of the imagery and stuff later in it is actually kind of taken from memories from Zimbabwe. But I've been to a lot of funerals in my life, and funerals play a big part in my music. And it was just one of those things where it hit me right away that was what it was going to be. And it was one of those times where I felt like I knew what the chorus was first. I just started improvising it, you know. But yeah, you know, when they take me down the road,
Got it.
And that's just the whole thing about like carrying the cart with, you know, when they bring me down. you know. And so that's where I started from, you know, and the whole idea of it's like that opening where it was like silent except for children crying, they never even knew him. You know, it's maybe just crying off the vibes. I don't know. They're like 2-3 years old. They don't know what's going on.
On the next song, Scaffolds, you say a really powerful line. You say, I can't afford not to believe in things unseen, but belief always been dangerous to me. Can you expound on how you identify with the concept of belief?
Well, I think that this is something that's true in my life in general. That's how I operate, you know, because I spent too much time around true believers in my life, and then sometimes you get yourself into some goofy spots with that. But I think in the context of the song, I was also talking about. I was kind of trying to address the sort of the space that we're in, especially in the post Me Too movement and other things that are going on with people being exposed, whoever, Africa Bambaataa, all the way to whoever got themselves exposed today, to where kind of trying to explore all of the things that come with that, you know, from the feeling of as a man where you're like, well, what things do I need to think about? And you're like, oh man, let me try and think back. What did I do that might now be viewed, and I might have to look at it another? And that's the whole line about like the bone's not deep, you know, where you're like, all right, you know, all these things are popping off. You're thinking about what you may or may not have done or been around, whatever types of things. And also talking about the fact that sometimes a lot of things, as all of these things have progressed and the nature of the internet and discussion today, sometimes things happen and you're not really clear, because obviously there's things that happen and it's like everybody knows this person was, there's no question. And then other times it's like something happened with it's never really clear exactly, and you're not even sure what you're supposed to, how you're supposed to move forward or what ended up happening. It's like some part of somebody's text conversation is now on Instagram and you're not even sure who said what. And then afterwards, everything just continues. And you're like, I don't even know what the status of that whole thing was. But at the same time, you might see this person at this place or that place, or you might say, hey, did you hear this record? And somebody's like, oh, I'm not listening to that record because of, don't you remember what happened? And then you're like, oh yeah, well, what happened with that? And you don't necessarily know. Everything isn't always clear. And sometimes the discussions take on a life of their own that takes them off somewhere else. And not trying to solve any ambiguities or anything like that, but just sort of explore all the things that exist within that space and within those movements and ideas. So in specific, that's what I was talking about. And that also goes for things in other areas of life too, you know, where it's like, you have no choice at times but to believe in things that you don't know, because you weren't there or whatever, or you're not exactly sure. And at the same time, I really have trouble just believing things, period. You know what I mean? I'm not a person who goes off faith or, you know, things like that. So that sort of dichotomy that occurs, you know.
I thought it was interesting how you displayed the two, right? And you didn't dismiss either one completely. You know, while I totally get the second part, like belief always being dangerous, because a lot of stuff has been done in the name of belief that has led people astray, right? But I also thought it was cool how you looked at it from the perspective of, man, it's almost like as man, we are sometimes at mercy of belief, right? When you said, I can't afford not to.
Well, you can't go around and say, if I didn't, if I wasn't there, I can't say, I mean, that's like an easy thing to say, but isn't always applicable, any different than when the police shoot somebody and people are like, well, there's two sides. I mean, yes and no. I mean, there are two sides, and there's things that are happening. There's smoke, there's fire. And so, yeah, I think both of those, I think that song in some ways, I was trying to hold all of those dichotomies in place. Life is complicated, man.
Yes. Got it. So, Elucid, the last Armand Hammer project, you contributed to, like mostly production wise, was the Paraffin project. And
I rapped on every song there, man.
Was that?
I rapped on every song there.
No, production.
Oh, word. Got you. Yeah.
I'm in production. Mm-hmm. Yeah, production. As far as your production.
Mm-hmm.
And when we look at Shrines and of course Haram, you don't really see the production. Obviously, Alchemist has this one. Mm-hmm. Have you thought about when the next Armand Hammer project you will actually lend, like, if not full production or majority of production? And have you thought about the direction you would like to take that sound?
Man, I would love to, but I think I didn't get involved in Shrines because I really just didn't have the time, just like personally, like a lot of shit was going on. And then Haram, obviously, like, it's Al, and I just contributed in the end with like just little transitions or whatever. But I would love to make that happen, holding down a lot of the production for Armand Hammer. Like I said, we've created our own sound. We have our own sound, and I want to continue to mine that for whatever that might hold for the future. But who knows? You never know.
And the reason why I asked the question is because you may have a vantage point with a producer ear based on what Armand Hammer has been able to do recently, right? Mm-hmm. And I was just curious to know, like, where your production mindset is for like a full contribution like that from you in the future.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how to answer that question. I have a very simple process. I'm not like a gearhead. I don't have tons of equipment, and I don't use Ableton. I feel like I'll be making music like Marley Marl made in like '89. Like, honestly, like the level of like kind of gear that I'm using and the ways that I'm like processing things. Like, people who can have equipment to do things way easier than the way that I do it. But like, this is comfortable for me, and I'm really not interested in like learning new technologies in that kind of a way. So
I could dig it. Sometimes simplicity just works for people well. Person. Yeah, I could dig it. So the song Falling Out the Sky has a very kind of like roots reggae, Irie vibe to it. It's probably the most laid back song on the Haram album as it relates to the vibe. And the lyrics in each of your verses kind of move in that direction as well. But they both kind of end in a grim way at the end. Like, I know, Woods, you referenced the potential.
You're a smart guy, man. You're a smart guy. Go ahead, man.
Right?
Yeah, Woods, I appreciate it. Woods, you referenced the potential of crossing paths with the Illinois State Trooper. And Elucid, you also kind of referenced some grim concerns at the end of your verse 2. Tell us why y'all decided to go in that direction with the lyrics.
Well, I would say it's important to know how the song was made. And then I think it would speak to how well we work together.
Yeah.
We had a different song that Earl was supposed to get on. And then he pulled a switcheroo And he was like, nah, I'm going to do something else. And we were like, all right. I was like, all right, cool, whatever, you know? And him and Al are like best friends. So they are always hanging out. So one day Al was like, we're recording it today. And he was like, what do you guys think of this beat? I was like, the beat's good. Let's go. And so Earl recorded, they said it. I was like, this is dope. Let's go. So to me, I kind of picked up from there. And I was just getting this summertime California vibe. And obviously, there's some pretty serious stuff in Earl's verse to begin with. And so I was just trying to build off of that, but also tell this story. And that's where it built to. I mean, it's to be honest, it's a real story. So that's really what happened, right? And yeah, sometimes the best thing you can do in a story is to you know, you don't need to show the point at the exact thing happened. You know what I mean? That's not the key. And so once I was writing it, I was like, I knew the story because it was from my real life. So it was just about how I was going to fit that in. And then Elusa was like, what's the song about, whatever. And when he sent it, I was like, in short, it's about a really memorable summer from when I was younger. And he was like, cool, got it. And that was all that was really discussed. And I really appreciate it after this is a good example of like being able to trust somebody. It's like after he recorded it, it was like absolutely perfectly picking up the baton from where I was and then carrying it. And again, it's not, I think in both verses, it's not that something bad happens at the end, but that there's moments of foreshadowing of other things outside of the immediate run of this story without them being overbearing or hitting you on top of the head, so that as you listen to it more and more, you notice little things in stories that are mostly happy stories. And it's not like meant to be like a happy story, but like you're in the moment, you know, you're in the summer, but there's these other things around the edge. And I also thought it was interesting how the narrator's age gets younger as it passes through the three MCs.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm writing a story about being a young man, you know, probably like 21, you know, 20 years old on the West Coast. And then comes with the story straight like summer camp with all these things, that the darkness peeking around the edges or whatever. So that's how I got done. As for my part, that's just how I write. And plus it was a real story. So I was just trying to put the things in there without going to tell that exact piece of it again.
That makes a lot of sense. So on the second verse of Squeegee, in speaking about stories, would you tell a story about a particular character? What actually happens to him? Does he throw up in the end? It kind of left me wondering what exactly.
Hold on 1 second. I'm sorry to interrupt. Also, you know, after they did that, ever since that Elusa, I always see on the Amazon or whatever, Fire Stick, whatever, they're trying to get me to watch this movie, Cropsy. A bad horror movie. I know it's bad, but they keep trying to.
I didn't know they made it into a movie.
I never even heard of that.
It was a legend. It was a legend at this camp I went to. So Cropsy was this farmer, and the camp was built on like his farm, right? So the story went that Cropsy was out working on the land, and a helicopter came and chopped his head off, and his head just like rolled around. So at night, like Cropsy would come looking for his head. So yeah, Cropsy was like this camp legend. There was a graveyard, Cropsy's graveyard, and the counselors would take us out there, try to scare the shit out of you, like you in the middle of the Catskills. We from New York City, like just being in that kind of darkness is unsettling as hell. You know what I mean? All these sounds and smells, and it's pitch black in a way we've never seen it before. Yeah, Cropsy. I didn't know that was a movie though. Crazy. Have you seen it?
No, I just see you don't have like Amazon Prime or whatever Fire Stick? What do you use?
I don't have a TV.
Oh, okay. I forgot to do that new Negro. You just got a Kente cloth square.
I do got Amazon Prime though. I mean, obviously computer. But I ain't seen Cropsy. It ain't popped up in the algorithm.
No, it's some random movie that Amazon Prime keeps suggesting I watch, which means it's probably pretty terrible. But it's some sort of horror movie. I guess that must be a like an urban legend in New York, Long Island.
Possibly, yeah.
It was in Staten Island. I'm not sure.
Mm.
Funny, I don't know about that story neither. So like, you know, you referencing it in the music was interesting as well. Lucid. Like, all right, going back to that track, like, I know Woods broke down, you know how he came up with his verse, you know, and it being an account from real life. Were there any aspects of things that happened in your real life in your verse, Lucid?
I mean, that was just a summer experience, like totally
Okay.
like being away. Yeah, totally like true to life. First time being away from home. And yeah, that I guess you were talking about like the darkness at the end, but it peaked up, you know, a few other times like leading up to it, you know, just like seeing kids like trying to hurt kids, like initiations, hazings, you know what I mean? Like things that start off as fun and then it's like it's not fun. You know what I mean? I mentioned like we called them homie socks, because at the time, like in Living Color and Homie the Clown, and you had that sock and you had the baby powder and you hit some, and the kids started putting batteries in it. You know what I mean? It was just like it was drawing blood in a summer camp. You know, it was wild. And then yeah, I mean, a kid actually did drown in that pool that I did learn how to swim in. You know, but yeah, it was the beat. The beat gave like these sort of like bittersweet vibes for me. As soon as I heard it, like I immediately, like, I don't know, like I felt that, like it's bittersweet, like it's smooth, but there's always something like kind of nasty around the corner, under the surface, you know. Yeah, and I think that's kind of like, say what?
And I said that's exactly how the actual song comes across when you listen to it in totality.
Yeah. Luke, because so I like how in the lead, I heard Earl's reference. Earl had a reference to death, obviously with his dad, and then Woods verse also building on like not childhood but like young adult sort of recollections in the summer, and it just seemed like fitting to tell a story for my youth. I did peep that as I was writing the verse, that I did have the youngest perspective, and I thought that was kind of cool to keep that, and I just ran with it. Yeah,
it's dope how things turn out. You know, like you don't even. I think sometimes it's better not to hear what the other MC is doing, and when it all comes together, it comes like magic.
Yeah. That is the Armand Hammer.
Yes,
Armand Hammer way.
Got it. So going back to that last question I asked Woods, on the second verse of Squeegee, you tell a story about a particular character. What actually happens to him? Does he throw up in the end? Because it kind of had me wondering what happens to him at the end of the verse. It was like you say something like the taste in his mouth, just like before. That's like the last line that you say. Care to break down? I mean,
yeah, no problem. It's interesting because that song, I saw somebody in some review, man, of the things that I've seen in reviews that were crazy. The one thing has been the craziest, and this was not it. This was up there. The craziest one was somebody's interpretation of Stone Fruit, where I was like, "What is happening?" They were like, "Oh, Squeegee is about a guy who lives like a really clean life and such and such." And I'm like, the beginning of the song is put together. That's why I'm like, some people never went outside, man. Like, the beginning of the song is put together a good 2-3 weeks. Have you not ever known somebody who is trying to like, whatever, obviously some sort of circumstances happen where the person is like, I'm switching my life up, whatever, prior to being introduced to this person, you know? They haven't been getting up early and going to bed early every night. This is a new thing. They put together 2-3 good weeks, you know, and I thought that really set the stage for sometimes that's where you're at in life, you know. You're like, man, I got 2 weeks of like not doing whatever it is, you know. And so I felt like that was the stage I was trying to set with somebody who something has happened. They're coming from some sort of situation where they're like, all right, I gotta switch up. Well, I'm gonna be eating healthy, working out, staying out of trouble, not going around the dudes on the corner and smoke, whatever it is, you know. And then I was just trying to show how I don't know, again, if you've ever been somebody who is like, I got to switch up my life or whatever, what doesn't matter what happened, whether you got out of jail or somebody you knew close to you went to jail or died or just whatever situation where you're like, I got to switch it up. I got to change what I'm doing. As time goes, sometimes that starts to, the control that you're trying to establish could start to slip away for this person, you know what I mean? And so I was just trying to paint that moment. Obviously, they saw some people on the street, and it was like people who you have some type of relationship with, and even how I was described, like they danced around it, but then there's something that nobody's talking about. But just to be cool, I hit the blunt a couple times. It's cool, peace, 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 and how that starts to be the beginning of some sort of erosion of this person's feeling of control, partially because you got high or whatever. But no, I wasn't thinking like that. I was thinking more of I think there's a lot of ways you could interpret the taste in this mouth, just like before. But this is a person who's trying to leave something behind from their earlier life and move on to a new thing. And then through these interactions, the question of whether that new resolution, that new direction is slipping away, because they obviously either through the combination of reality and paranoia, whatever, they're somewhat beset by these circumstances around them. You know what I mean? So it's like dude in his apartment and is looking at the world around, and you know, when it's like, oh, they're getting wet in the hall. I mean, you're from Brooklyn, you know, dude's just smoking dust, or he imagines they are in the hallway. There's all of these things where like the taste in his mouth could be like from the L that he smoked with barking them in the street. It could be whatever it was that you're trying to leave behind, and then you get the feeling coming back, whatever it is.
The reason
maybe I should have one drink.
The reason why I asked, did he throw up, is because you said he squatted by the window, and then I thought about the taste in the mouth. I'm like, okay, maybe, you know, he was too high and he threw up, you know, but
no. Squatting by the window is just like, this is a person who's just coming home, doing their thing. And so that's just them high at home and just looking out at the street and all the things around them. And there's, at least to me, there's a sense of, they have some sort of sense of disgust and alienation from their surroundings, you know?
Got it. Thank you, man. As you can see, man, I'm big into like deciphering lyrics, so I always like to hear what the artist intended, so it could give me a better understanding of the music. So I appreciate that. That makes a lot more sense now. So the final track on the album, Stone Fruit, Elucid, we hear a strong singing type flow from you throughout your verses and the hooks on the song. What inspired the vocal flow, and how difficult was it for you to keep that voice throughout the recording?
I mean, that's my voice. That's my voice. I'm singing, and I'm just being in key with how I hear the beat. I first heard the beat and I heard fireworks. I didn't know what that meant, but that's what I heard. And then I started like the words came, the melody came, And I'm thinking about, like, I'm talking about love. I'm talking about the expansiveness of love. I'm talking about relationships and the expansiveness of relationships, and like new configurations of love and new configurations of relationships, and how like your partner, you know, your partner is your partner, your lover is your lover. And I'm into multiplicities. You know, one person can't and shouldn't be expected to take care of all of your needs. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. So that's why I was going with Stone Fruit. So again, like, this is not, this is my singing voice. This is my life. And it wasn't really hard to like maintain or like keep up. It just felt really good. I remember being in the studio with Green, and it was actually one of the first records that we did. When we first kicked off Haram, I feel like it was like the first recording session, like in 2019, that I did that. And I was just like, fuck, this is the one. This is the one. And I remember when we finished the record, we were sequencing, and Woods is like really, really good at sequencing records. And I didn't want it at the end. I felt like, yo, this is like a standout record. This should be like maybe at the top of the heat. He was like, no, just throw it at the end. This is the closer, because where you gonna go from here? You know what I mean? Like, this felt like a peak climax type of moment. And I saw the genius in that. I'm happy. You know what I mean? Like, I have somebody like that on the team that could see the path. You know, I didn't see it. He saw it, and it worked out.
Dope. Yeah, I
guess Alchemist was the one who really had to be wrestled with, because Lucid doesn't really worry too much in the create. He worries at the end what it all is. Whereas like Alchemist is the more who is like along the way, I kept having to be like, nah, it's gonna be last. Trust me on this one. So that was the person I was having to stiff arm as we were working. And then once we were done, that's when all of us discussed it. But I felt like by then it wasn't as hard of a sell for Lucy, because we had the tracks to justify it, you know. But yeah, it had to be last. What was the next song gonna be?
I'm so glad that it was placed last, and it's dope to hear that it was just natural for you, Elucid, because me as the listener, I'm like, man, like, it sounds like you're projecting your voice a little stronger. So I'm like, man, this must have been a little challenge for him, but that's dope to hear that it was easy going. I think that's the reason why it flows like that too, probably because it was that natural for you.
Yeah, you know,
I mean, even when I imagine being in my seat when I got the track, I was just like, wow, because he picked the song and then sent that and knew what he was doing, and it was like, all right, just works. It sounds so different, but I think Elucid has a lot of work like that. Sometimes what you pick up and it really enters into you kept that flow. Shit.
You kept that flow like it's like it's not separated from your verse and the hook, like it's all one, which is
word
indeed. So look at the time, man. I haven't even touched the Shrines album, which I want to go into right now. I don't know if y'all have the time.
Part 2. Get a part 2.
Yeah, I definitely want to tap into some of the music on Shrines, if y'all got the time.
Go ahead.
All right, indeed. So
I don't have the most time, but indeed. I definitely want to
do what you can
for a couple years.
Yeah, do what you can. If you gotta leave and Woods kind of stay, then I'm cool with that. Whatever y'all want to do, right? I'm gracious for what y'all have already given. All right. So the album cover of Shrines, with the tiger in the window. I'm very familiar of the story. Tell me why y'all chose to go with this cover.
You never felt like Ming? You never felt like Ming the Tiger? You never identify with that tiger, man?
I think I know what you're saying. I think I know where you're going with.
I feel like that tiger sometimes, man.
Yeah.
I feel like that tiger, man. There's yeah. It was Woods' idea.
Mhm.
Woods should be a creative director somewhere, man. Woods has been responsible for the past 2 records. They both feature animals. I didn't really think about that till Haram came out, but yeah, like Woods had the idea, and I was like, I remember that story immediately when it happened. I remember like reading about that in Harlem, how the story of Ming the Tiger, and I think was they in Polo Grounds?
It was
Sure if they were in Polo Grounds. They was somewhere in Harlem.
It was definitely in Harlem.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that story.
That was a crazy story. I saw it on I don't know, it was like one of them travel channels. I was like, yo, this is crazy. Like, but it like you say, man, like that feeling of being trapped in a surrounding. Yeah.
Would you still here?
He dropped out. I don't know if he was having internet challenges. But we'll just have he could just click the link and come back in. True. I'll just keep it going with you in the meantime.
True.
So all right. I was gonna ask, this next question was gonna be for Woods, but I'm gonna switch this one up. On the song Charms, there's an excerpt of a lady speaking on a different perspective of the idea of survival. She says, if we do what we need to do, then we will leave something that continues beyond ourselves, and that is survival. Why was it important for y'all to have that message close out the song?
That was Audre Lorde talking about survival. And I think for me, like relating to that, what's real in this world? What's real when you leave? Thinking about legacy, thinking about, we know you can't take things with you, but I'm very much interested in leaving something behind for my family, for those who choose to, I don't even like the word be inspired by what I do, but like, yeah, I'm an artist. I create things for people to digest, to live with. And I would love to be in that position. It's a very ill way to think about survival. What up, Woods? She was talking about the Audre Lorde quote on Charms and what survival means.
Right. I was saying
how she framed.
Yeah, in the quote, she says at the end of Charms, she says, if we do what we need to do, then we will leave something that continues beyond ourselves, and that is survival. I thought it was a powerful quote, but I was just asking Elucid, why y'all chose to put that message to close out the song.
Just such a powerful quote. That's another beat that Elucid kind of spotted it. Child Actor did the beat, and as soon as he pointed it out, I was like, man, that's genius. It's gonna be great. Another time, he's the one who knows, everybody knows who Kia is now, but he's the one who knew her out of us at that time, and he brought her in on that song, and obviously she was phenomenal. Just one of my all-time favorite songs that we've done. Love that video too. One of the most underappreciated videos we've done. Joseph Mall, genius. That quote. I just went looking for a quote, and I know that Lucid's familiar with her work, maybe more than me, and I was just looking, and I was listening to that interview. I can't remember how I ended up listening to that interview, but then when it got to that part, I just thought this is perfect. Great voice too,
Yes. Yeah, man. It's a really interesting perspective on survival that really makes you rethink what you've been told about survival.
You know what it makes me think of, kind of? Jay-Z had a line on Reasonable Doubt where he's like, I'm not trying to survive. Oh man. Not trying to survive. I'm trying to love it and live it. I'm gonna find it right now.
Brothers, I really have to break out.
No doubt, no doubt. Lucid, I thank you so much, brother. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Word.
We the show is gonna be up on Friday.
Mhm.
You know, and I'm gonna put the audio version to it as well. So I think you're on IG, right? I'm out. If anything, if you don't mind the DM of it, you know.
Time,
man. Listen, thank you so much for your time, man. If you got more time, I'll rock out with you. For
the record, it's The Evils.
Oh, The Evils, yeah. The
JP record. 9 to 5 is how you survive. I ain't trying to survive. I'm trying to live it to the limit and love it a lot.
Got it. Yeah. I remember that record. Yeah.
And so and part of me is also like it's a reversal of, you know, there's some sort of idea that surviving is like giving up. You know. The same way sometimes I feel like people talk about slavery or what I would have done this, that, and the third. No way I would have. And it's like, well, the people who jumped off the ship, they're gone. We're here because of the people who didn't jump off the ship.
Real talk.
We're here because of the people who found ways to bring meaning to their lives. You know, because it's easy to talk, I would have done this and that. You'd be dead in the ground, man. It's not that everybody else didn't have the courage. You know, it takes just as much courage to find a way to, you know, find some sort of dignity in moving forward in life as it does to jump off a boat. I don't malign either person, you know.
Yeah.
Indeed. On that, I'm out.
All right. Later.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again, man. Woods, I appreciate you staying extra, man. It won't be too long.
No problem.
Thank you, man. So, and it's cool because some of the questions I have for Lucid, so I'll just only ask the questions that I have for you.
Okay.
Okay. So, just in terms of rhymes, I feel like you guys pack a lot into your lyrics. Like this, you know, you guys have a lot of songs that could be under 2 minutes, and I feel like y'all are offering a lot lyrically. Is that a conscious decision on your part, and how difficult is that to achieve?
For sure. I mean, what else do I have to offer?
I
have a deep voice. That's about it. You know, I think that my lyrics and my command of language is, you know, just the talent that I have. That it's a combination of both talent and, you know, I come from a family where those things were important. Put a lot of work into, you know, writing and reading a lot from like a young age. So it's what I'm good at. So I try to push myself to do better every time.
Definitely, I could dig it. On the track Pommel Horse, you have a line where you say, the leper will tell you straight. Family and friends will lie to your face. What do you think makes a person who's considered a leper so truthful?
Somebody who doesn't have a stake in the game, a lot of times they're the person who will really tell you what it is. I mean, sometimes your family and friends will tell you what it is. Sometimes they can't tell you what it is. Sometimes somebody who doesn't have any stake in the game can really reveal to you things that maybe you don't want to see, or maybe you know, but you have to hear somebody say it. But they don't care one way or the other, man. Do whatever, you know, do whatever you're gonna do. But here's what they think.
I like that explanation. Not having stake in the game. It
a person is shunned by everyone.
Yeah,
they don't have any special reason to tell you or think that you're gonna do them a favor or anything else.
So, on the song Parables, you all reference classic lyrics from you know, MF Doom, the late great MF Doom's Operation Greenback's track. How much of Doom's influence has inspired your lyrical approach?
I guess a lot. Definitely, there's a few artists who I name as really big influences on me, and I was a big MF Doom fan, and perhaps most fittingly, his most he was creating his best work when I was really starting, like 1998 to 2003 is me like learning how to write and record rhymes. And Doom's Zevlov X's resurgence as MF Doom really is in that 1999 to 2004. I mean, he was running everything, and so that was hugely influential at that time, along with some other artists too. And then the fact that there's some just odd symmetry in some of the biographical details, I think I was listening to, I didn't even realize he was Zimbabwean and half Caribbean, which is like me. So maybe I was listening to Mr. Clean on the Vaudeville Villain album.
Yeah, he said Trini.
Like half Zimbabwe and half Trini mixed in.
Yeah. That's dope.
So yeah, I think those things really made it stick out for me, and definitely I'd be remiss if I didn't say that he was one of my biggest influences easily in terms of this music shit. Same, I was a big Ghostface fan, but it also helped that was like right at that time. You know what I mean? There's other artists that I was a big, or even somebody like Breesley Bruin to a lesser extent from those first two, but it was just that his style was just something I could never fully do. But I appreciated how he wrote, because he was the first person who I noticed who would write his verses where the punchline would be here, but the idea extends into the next bar. So it'd be like, I'm trying to think of an example right now, but he'd say like, you're really spitting, and then the next line would be like choking with that garbage in your throat or something like that, where it's like, oh, the punchline was here, but then it really is the punchline is afterwards.
Yeah.
Or like he told you half of it, and then the meaning in the next word. And he was somebody whose work I was really being introduced to around then, between the Clear Blue Skies record and Prince Among Thieves.
Nice.
But I would go. And then there's other people who were big influences, but they were in that time that I was rapping, whether you said something like Chuck D, Public Enemy, one of the first people that I really started fucking with, or like, I still remember going to buy Marsburg at Amoeba when I was working on History Will Absolve Me, and I was in LA, and Big Justin and I went to Amoeba Records my first time there, and I bought Pilot Talk by Currency and Marsburg by Rock Marciano, and then those two dudes, over the next decade, a million. But I couldn't say that they influenced me as much, even though I was a fan, and it affected me in how I thought about the music, because that wasn't right in that sweet spot where you're like, how do I rap?
Right.
How do I make myself better? And so that's why I say like Ghostface, Doom, the stuff that I was really into in that time period. To some lesser extent, I would also give some credit to Cameron, man, in that early 2000s era, like the Purple Haze, and I messed with that record.
Interesting.
Not every song, but the joints that were fly were crazy, and so things that happened in that era had a lot of impact, because you were sitting writing rhymes every day. That was writing rhymes. And so sometimes you just literally sitting there writing rhymes, like how trying to write Ghostface tracks,
That's dope that you mentioned Breezy Bruin. I did an interview with him earlier this year. He released his solo debut after all of these years. And I definitely know what you're talking about with when you talk about Doom's lines, and he'll like end with a certain
No,
line.
that was brewing. That was brewing. What I was saying with Doom, it was everything. I mean, Doom brought so many things that it never thought. Like Doom was rhyming in a third. I never heard somebody rhyme in the third person that much. And then all the things that allowed you to do, instead of saying I went here and did this, you could be like he went here and did this, even though he's talking about MF Doom.
Definitely, that's what made him such a dope MC for me, man. Yeah, man. And I could definitely see the influences, but I wanted to ask you directly about it. You know,
how he balanced, like, you listen to something like Operation Doomsday, it's like funny, but incredibly sad at the same time. And those are things that appeal to me in art always.
right.
And are kind of part of my own sense of humor and my own sensibility. So they appeal to me naturally. So yeah, big influence there for sure.
Indeed. On the track, the Eucharist, which is the last track on the Shrines album, you have a very interesting flow. The words follow the sounds like oodle doodle poodle. Obviously not those exact words, but the sound, right? How were you able to search for those sounds? Because on the surface, it sounds like it's very difficult to find words with those sounds. Like when you think about when you were creating the Eucharist, like in the flow and the different sounds, like.
Oh man, that was a song where I was really into it while I was doing it. So yeah, I don't know how much I could say.
It just kind of flowed.
I don't know how much I could say that I was like sitting and thinking of how to put it together or whatever. It was definitely just happening. And yeah, that was one where it really just flowed through me, and I caught a vibe, and then I was just writing it.
Got it. I could dig that. I could flow with that. Sometimes it just comes out like that. So I could dig
Yeah, and that one, it was more, if anything, I more remember just getting excited as the ideas were locking together. You know, I knew the idea I was trying to do. And so when some of the things were locking together, I remember the feeling of excitement. I remember really being like, when I got the part, which was early on, when it's like, it reminded me of being a little kid in Africa. And we used to have a scripture class we had to go to at my school. We had a religion class we had to take in school when I was a little kid. And I remember being fascinated by the part where they're like, the devil takes Jesus up to a high place. Because there's the temptations of Christ, right? When he's in the desert, the devil comes to him in different guises and is like, if you reject God, I'll do this for you, or I'll do that for you. And at one point, the devil takes him to a high place and it's like, everything you can see, I'll make it yours. And Jesus rejects him or whatever. But I remember when I got to the line, follow the devil to the high place, the pinnacle, the wilderness vibrate, do good is miserable. That's when I was like, yo, this is it. I like this right here. I remember feeling like, okay, this is what we're doing.
Yeah, you know, the reason why I asked about it is because you sound so in the pocket. You know what I'm saying? Like with the rhymes and the flow. You know, I'm always curious to know how like certain rhyme patterns come together.
Yeah, that one was just going, man. I was just trying to get the ideas lined up and to do what they needed to do, because I felt like it was going right. Yeah, but I remember more the ideas, like just one after the other, just sort of clicking into place like perfectly. Probably one of the best songs that I ever made.
Wow.
I really like every aspect of every line of that is like the pilot's silent, but that's the signal too. You know, because Patia's pilot is like, I didn't tell them to kill him, but I think a recurring theme in my music is that people's desire to avoid responsibility for all sorts of things. You know, yeah, the pilot didn't say anything, but that was a signal too. You know what I mean?
So
and obviously the the group home shout out made me really happy.
Mm.
You know, as an old premiere, like I still remember the first time I heard that record and being like, what?
Wow.
Lil Dap, Superstar.
Yeah, that was the record, man.
Yeah, that was the record.
Yup, 90s, man, came up on that. So my last question in reference to lyrics on the pride, I actually gonna go back to Benny Miles from Haram. I didn't get a chance to ask you about this, but this lyric was so potent that I wanted to ask you it. You have a line where you say, "Ain't no angel saving us, ain't no saving us, ain't no slaving us. You're gonna need a bigger boat, you're gonna need a smaller ocean, but here's some rope." Now, it sounds like you're talking about self-reliance in that lyric, but can you break down, the meaning of the lines?
Okay, so it starts off dreams is dangerous, linger like angel dust, which is self-explanatory, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ain't no angels hovering, ain't no saving us.
Right.
See, I saw somebody put it as harboring, and it's ain't no angels hovering above us. You know what I mean? Ain't no saving us.
Okay.
Ain't no slaving us. You're gonna need a bigger boat. You're gonna need a smaller ocean, but here's some more rope. I guess there's a bunch of ideas in that, dreams can be dangerous, and I meant that in all sorts of ways, but I guess both in the wider way of like dreams that people have that then maybe aren't fulfilled, but also the sense, you ever woken up for a dream and it took a while to figure out what was real, or some aspect of it hung over your day or your morning or something, where it was just like there, like you have an unsettling dream, and for a little while you're like, did some part of that really happen? Or you just feel it around you. And then I also wanted to invoke the bigger idea of dreams that people have are dangerous. And then I would, linger like angel dust, ain't no angels hovering, ain't no saving us. So that part is obviously religion, the idea of if somebody else is, there's otherworldly forces waiting to help us. And then the last part was about the fact that,
Yeah, you say
slavery. It's not like that can't happen. Not going for it the second time.
Right.
You need a bigger boat and a smaller ocean. And obviously the Jaws reference or whatever. And when I said here's some more rope, it's like give somebody enough rope, they'll hang themselves. That idea. And then of course that brings with the ideas of lynching and other things. So that's where I was going with it, but like,
got it.
Yeah, if you want to do that, if you really think you could do it, here's some more rope. Go ahead and try it.
Right. So it's like like I said, self-reliance, but like fighting back, like it ain't gonna happen this time around.
For sure.
Got it.
For sure. And yeah, just the overall trying to there's a world that things people imagine and or want, and then there's a world that exists.
Got it. Man, I thank you so much for staying with me.
No problem, man. I really enjoy, I enjoy when somebody, especially when we have projects like this, and sometimes I'm surprised more. I guess it works two ways. Sometimes you see people in the comments of a video or something be like, what's this song about? And my friend pointed out to me, she was like, do people ask Future what his songs are about? Because it's like, and of course, but yeah. I was also thinking about the fact of, because obviously there's lots of things and lots of emotions sometimes are going into a song. But I do like, at the same time, sometimes there's songs where I'll see what people said about them, and I'm just like, man, should just ask.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not obviously once you make music, once you make or create something, it's out in the world. I can't, and I'm not able to dictate to people what they want to take away from it. You know, they're like kids. Like once you have your kids and they go off into, you can't follow them around the whole time and make sure they act exactly how you want them to. You know what I mean? You can't follow your kids around and be like, oh no, my kid is really great, fun to be around. Like they got to go to school and figure it out for themselves. You know what I mean? But at the same time, sometimes you see some takes that are really, really bad. And other times I recognize that things, when I'm writing them, and sometimes it seems like people think, oh, you're sitting and I'm writing it trying to be creative and write something that I think is good. Like, I'm not sitting there, how can I make this impossible? Sometimes I think things are not as difficult as they turn out to be to understand. And also sometimes people want to have a reaction saying what the whole album is about, like the day it came out. And it's just like, that's crazy, man. It's not an insult to anybody to be like, you might need to sit and absorb the work for a little bit. Get some more listens in before you come out with like your very first impression of what something's about. You might end up looking foolish. The music is not that surface. And listen, there's meaningful music that sometimes you know exactly what it's about at the beginning. You listen to a Bob Marley song 9 times out of 10, you know what it's about. I'm not saying that makes it whack. Or like you listen to Tupac's music, the messages and the intent and the emotions are close to the surface. That doesn't mean it's bad, but I'm just saying the music that we make or the music that I make, it's kind of like nobody wants to hear your take on like if you watch a David Lynch movie, you might need to sit down and watch it again. Like it's not traditional in its approach to a lot of things, but yeah, so I enjoy talking about the work, and I enjoy when somebody has pertinent and insightful questions about the actual material itself. It can be interesting to talk about, especially when we've done 1 million interviews about whether we hung out with Alchemist in his studio. Not that those are important things to cover, but I appreciate that you giving the opportunity to come on and talk about specific lyrics. It's fun to me.
I appreciate that, bro. And I always say what you guys are known for is your art, right? You guys are known for, particularly as Armand Hammer and even you as Billy Woods, the artist, you're known for your music. So I try to focus on what I resonate with you with, right? In terms of me being a listener of the music. But that takes time. That takes effort. I mean, this interview went long, but I have to say it's taken me multiple hours out of my day of playing back the lyrics, playing back the music, changing up questions, you know? So I see this as an art too. So I'm grateful to hear your response.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. And
indeed,
if there's anything I can do or that you need from me, just let me know. I'll be very interested to see this.
Yes, man. Yes. Thank you so much. So in closing, if you have any last words in regards to the Haram album, like what would you like to leave with the the listeners or the people out there that are, now getting into the album? What would you hope they take from the project?
Well, I hope if you heard it and you haven't heard Shrines yet, you go back and listen to that. I think that in some ways, kind of like, I thought it was interesting you wanted to talk about both records, because I think in some ways, much as Rome and Paraffin were two sides of a coin, I think that these albums, Shrines and and Haram are interlinked intentionally and by chance and by the nature of how and when they were made in a way that makes them kind of a pair. And we've had this thing where we've made 2 Armand Hammer albums in a row or almost simultaneously. The last 2, Rome and Paraffin, were made in overlapping ways that in many ways mirror the creation of Haram and Shrines. And I think that there's some interesting carryover and exchange of ideas and dialogue even between the 2 records. Yeah, that's what I'd say. That and Alchemist, great guy. Happy to be able to consider him a friend, and hope that friendship continues to grow because we have a lot in common. He's a great person. I really enjoyed interacting with him. And yeah, man, I'm just thankful for all the response and for him looking out and giving us that look. And yeah.
Indeed. Man, thank you so much again, man.
Happy also to everyone who got mad because they wanted us to make some other album, like some other person. You know, it's funny because it's like somebody asked me if that made me upset, and I'm like, no, people have been trying to say I couldn't rap for 20 years now, you know, and it seems to have worked out okay. So I'm not too bad about it. The first time I ever was rapping, they threw me out the studio, and I believed in myself, and so here we are. But you know, I like the fact I like reaching new ears, and people who don't get it and don't like it, it's okay, you know. You know, there's lots of other rappers that are doing the same thing. You can listen to them. You don't have to worry about us. And everyone who is catching on or is intrigued or likes something, I hope that they dig in further.
Man, I'm so glad you stuck to it, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
Indeed. On that note, I just want to say to all of our viewers and listeners, thank you for staying for this interview. So grateful to brother Billy Woods and Elucid for giving us the time with Out the Box. Make sure y'all go to our website, which is outtheboxmedia.com, and you know, take a look at all the other cool stuff we have there. We have our merch store that you can find on the website. Remember, you can find our podcast, the audio podcast, on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. So until next Friday, I just want to say to all the people, stay healthy, stay focused, peace, love, and light, and we out of here.